Huge news, ladies and gentlemen. It turns out the FBI may have received credible intelligence that Diddy is planning on escaping prison. And it all connects to something he did when Homeland Security first showed up to arrest him. When federal agents raided Diddy's home, they asked for all devices. That's standard, everything gets turned over. But one phone didn't show up. It wasn't explained. It wasn't listed. It was treated like it didn't exist at all. Later on, though, that same phone came back into the case through legal documents, and instead of simply handing it over, Diddy's team pushed back. They filed motions, slowed things down, and tried to argue that the phone was protected under attorney-client privilege. The problem is that argument didn't really hold up. It's meant for private conversations with lawyers, not regular communication on a device like that. What's even more shocking is that there were allegations that Diddy was using another secret phone to blackmail victims. While attempting to evade law enforcement monitoring, the defendant has, among other things, orchestrated social media campaigns that are, in his own words, aimed at tainting the jury pool, made efforts to publicly leak materials he views as helpful to his case, and contacted witnesses through third parties. What? When the issue reached Judge Ain, he didn't accept the explanation. He said the arguments weren't credible and described the situation as a strategic delay. That wording matters because it suggests this wasn't confusion or a mistake. It looked intentional. Prosecutors were already thinking along similar lines. They believed the phone might contain evidence connected to obstruction, and they even raised the possibility of charges because of how long it took to deal with it. Still, in the final list of charges, obstruction didn't appear. That's where things start to raise eyebrows because in most cases, behavior like that doesn't just get ignored, and now that he is getting closer to his release date, new allegations are surfacing him, which must certainly be extremely threatening and frustrating to him. Our national correspondent, Jerrica Duncan, spoke exclusively with a former employee who testified in the hip-hop mogul criminal trial. Stylist Deontay Nash filed a lawsuit last week alleging Combs physically in him for years, which Combs denies. DNA. So we had, you say you were strangled on several occasions. Several. Was there ever a point where you thought I could die the whole time? I said he is going to. You talk in the lawsuit about literally having a to-go bag and cash just in case you had to go into hiding. It had some underwear, some shorts, a tank top, a hoodie, and, just some Vans. And you said it so casually, like this was normal behavior at that time. Normal behavior. And it would be like, very normal. This was normal, very normal behavior, and everybody pacified it. So who are we going to tell? Like, who exactly were we going to tell? Who are we going to call? Ghostbusters. Like there was no one there to save us. The firearms add another layer. Reports suggested that weapons were found during the raids, including some with altered serial numbers. Typically, that alone can lead to serious legal consequences. This is something Diddy has previously spoken about before, claiming that Diddy was in the business of distributing weapons and also using none other than Pastor T.D. Jake to sanitize his image. When you was around Diddy, was he doing like party drugs, like ecstasy and stuff like that? Diddy wasn't the dude he is today when I was around him. You understand? He had started. He had just started when I was about to leave. He had just started with the cuz he never smoked. He never smoked cigarettes. I never seen him dock or none of that. You understand? He would have it for people to do it. You understand? It's certain of his girls like to do it and he would make sure it would be there, but he wasn't the one that did it. Then he didn't start getting hooked on until he got hooked on those pain. After he got hooked on those pain, he started drinking more because he wouldn't even drink hard liquor. He was only drinking champagne, Don P or Chris style. He was not drinking hard liquor then. Yeah, that's real talk, man. And he also claims that, Diddy, he was using Titty Jakes to fix his image. You believe that? Well, we saw that to be true anyway. That's what he was trying to do all that time. That's why T.D. Jake was there to try to fix his image. Ain't no money like church money. He was doing all the things to try to get his image straightened up. I mean, it makes sense. And he also saying it's a lawsuit that when he was around Diddy, he seen Diddy give out a lot of, and he said that the environment around Diddy with, well, I don't know. He said else. He also said, did he distribute firearms? and was selling, and I don't know how far-fetched that is. I don't know if that's true or not and stuff like that. Maybe, Diddy Man had around and was fronting because they do have guys who, if you need stuff like that, call your man them over. He'll bring over 5 or 6, 7, 8, and you'll probably buy them from them. They have that type of, connection with people. What makes all of this really concerning is that in recent times we have seen increased reporting in the media attempting to not only paint Diddy as a reformed man, but also soft-launching his release from prison. There is a good chance that Diddy could be eating dinner at his home tonight, a free man. And that's because an appeals court is now hearing the review of the trial in which Diddy was convicted of the Mann Act, and his defense lawyers are making 2 arguments that could sway these judges and make them overturn the conviction. Let me explain both. So the first is that the defense says that the Mann Act is to prohibit the transportation of feuds across state lines, and it's typically for commercial purposes. That's where they've used it before. In this case, the defense is saying this is nothing more than kinky, and kinky is protected by the First Amendment. Now, that may sound crazy, but I'm going to read you something from their brief. Listen to this. They say freak-offs and hotel nights were highly choreographed performances involving the use of costumes, role-play, and staged lighting, which were filmed so Combs and his girlfriends could watch this amateur later. Every production and viewing of this sort is protected by the First Amendment and thus cannot constitutionally be prosecuted. So what they're saying is, look, if you want to use the Mann Act to prosecute people who are moving across state lines for commercial transactions, which again is what it's usually used for, that's one thing, but here there's no commercial purpose. Did he lost money? He ended up paying the dues. The films were never distributed to anybody. The defense is saying it was for his pleasure and the pleasure of people who may have been participating. So they're saying, look, this is like any could be OnlyFans. It could be anything like that. And all of that is constitutionally protected and shouldn't be prosecuted. So that's one argument. And I gotta say, it is an interesting argument that the prosecutors are saying it's meritless, but I wouldn't be so quick to judge it that way. So we don't know what the prosecution is going to say beyond that in court, but these judges, as I'm recording right now, the judges are hearing these arguments. The second thing they're arguing is that the sentence was totally out of whack. Now, while all of these things going in favor of Diddy is certainly suspicious, Jaguar Wright thinks it is engineered. She thinks there are powerful people in Diddy's corner who could likely also spring him from jail. These are seemingly the same people who chose both him and Jay-Z to be the gatekeepers of the industry. For a long time, she has been speaking openly about her experiences in the music industry. And in one interview, she tried to explain something that isn't easy to put into a single moment or event. She was asked where her issues with Jay-Z began, especially after working in similar circles. But instead of pointing to one incident, she made it clear that it wasn't that simple. According to her, it was a slow realization, and it's not an easy conversation to have because I fell for the same crap that everybody else fell for. And when you are adjacent to or, traveling in the same circles as the person that's been selected to be this icon, because let's just be very clear, he was selected just like Diddy was selected. Question is about hope. Now, for many years, I minded my business about a lot of things, but a lot of things came to me. I heard a lot of things. You got to remember, this was back when I was still trying to be amicable with the industry so that I could have my career, so that I could have my life right. Everything that I work for, everything that I sacrificed up until 2016, 2017, I was still ignoring a lot of things. A lot of things. It wasn't until I couldn't ignore it anymore because I realized this ain't going nowhere. And then when I started seeing exactly how dangerous things have become, it was very simple. It's either you're going to speak up, or they're going to keep getting away with it, or you're going to get handled up on regardless, because you're not playing along the way you should be playing along. Like that. That's how this works. Like the people that get rewarded are the people that keep the secrets, the people that are quiet and the people that lie for them. The people who get a pass are the people who pretend that they don't know what's going on. And then the people that speak up are the people that, get persecuted, get framed, get trashed, are forced to go broke, that kind of. So yeah, I cannot say that it was an overnight process. I was hoping, see, I was always so quick to just blame, all of the harm and the hair, just the terrible in the industry on Diddy. I wasn't really willing to accept the fact that they were working together, which is why I find it so funny. That's why she found it hard to accept public claims that certain relationships didn't exist. For example, she pointed to how people have denied close ties in the past, even when there appeared to be public moments suggesting otherwise, like the well-known connections between industry figures and people such as Harvey Weinstein. Again, her point wasn't about one single event. It was about watching patterns repeat. I mean, well, yeah, Harvey Weinstein, now that all of the videos of him calling Jay-Z his friend and sticking up for him, like, that's what I'm saying. I wish I could say that there was a specific thing that happened. It wasn't. It was just watching things stack up. Watching things stack up. Watching him grow more power. Watching it stack up. Watching them grow more power. Watching it stack up. And then asking myself, where am I in the pecking order if I come forward and say anything? Who's going to protect me? Who's going to back me up? Who's going to, you know what I mean? Who's going to verify? Is there anybody else that's willing to, like, it's been years. I've been waiting for people to be brave enough to come and stand with me, because the hardest thing to do is to get people to corroborate that happening. That's the hardest thing in the world to do. So, yeah, I can't say that there was one specific falling out. I don't know. I've been watching, just like everybody else has been watching things happen while they were growing power and, then and there's all of the other people who are, when you get frustrated, the other players in the game who say, "Oh, well, no, no, no." You know, listen to me. Nobody's going to forget your loyalty. Nobody's going to forget. It's going to be okay. When this person gets here, they're going to do this. When this person gets here, they're going to do that. Oh, when they make this happen, you're going to be able to get this. Like, it's bargain and trade all the way through. Am I making sense? Looking back, she admits she has mixed feelings. Part of her wishes she had spoken out earlier, but at the same time, she believes doing that years ago could have put her in a much more difficult position, possibly before she was ready to handle it. She also explained that timing mattered for personal reasons. As a parent, she chose to wait until her children were older before stepping into something this public and intense. From her perspective, going through that kind of pressure while raising young kids would have made things even harder. And she's not the only person who's spoken up about Diddy's elaborate scheming with his close associates. Very recently, a man by the name of Clayton Howard also came forward in an interview. Do I think he should have went to prison? Absolutely. As a victim of it, I can say definitively that he did it. I just don't like the fact that the way the prosecution presented the case. So, before we even go too far, we just got to tell you the truth. Diddy's not in jail he's in jail for domestic. He's in prison, excuse me. He's in prison for domestic. His 50 months is not foring me. Jules Theodore, the other unknown cowboys and angels, as the prosecution document says, or I forgot the other gentleman's name, whatever. He's not in prison foring us. He's in prison for beating on women and mistreating people, but they used in order to give him a conviction because the domestic that Cassie reported was too far out of statute to put him in prison. That's my mistake. All right? So the domestic was too much to put him in prison. So what they did was we're going to come back with all of this other stuff as far as with him bringing these male entertainers 15, 20 years ago. Actually, it wasn't even 15, 20 years ago because the man was doing it up until the time he got arrested. But that was enough. His own mistakes was enough for them to use everything to put him in prison. So he should have definitely got some time for the domestic. Think Cassie and Jane and all the other women that do deserve that justice, but he shouldn't have gotten more than that. I definitely don't think he should have gotten 10 or 15 years or anything more than the 15 months he got. I actually wrote the judge, a letter recommending that he gets less than 5 years. So, I'm happy for him. I'm happy he's going to get the chance to go home and live his life. So you actually wrote a letter to the judge? Yeah. I wrote a letter even though they didn't include it because of what I said in the letter. I definitely wrote a letter to the judge as a victim. That detail stands out because it shows how complicated his position is. Even while calling himself a victim, he wasn't asking for the harshest punishment. In the letter, he explained that he had cooperated with investigators for over a year, providing details, travel records, and testimony that helped build the case. He said he witnessed behavior and described the relationship he observed as unstable and harmful. But at the same time, he argued that some parts of the situation were not fully represented in court. He claimed his own experiences and perspective weren't given the same weight, and that certain details were left out in favor of a narrative that was easier to present. I also interviewed to witnessing numerous instances of domestic involving Mr. Combs and Miss Venturo, as well as the toxic and volatile nature of their relationship. However, I must emphasize that while I do not condone Mr. Cole's conduct regarding domestic, I never witnessed Miss Ventura being forced into any countess. On the contrary, my personal experiences with her revealed a willing and active participant in these interactions. I shared this information with prosecution, but I believe it was disregarded in favor of a narrative that was more advantageous to their case. As a victim myself, I was across straight lines, contracted an STD, and faced significant emotional and physical harm during my involvement with Mr. Combs and Miss Toro. My relationship with Miss Misto was so extensive that I impregnated her, and despite terminating the pregnancy, she continued to contact, coerce, and me for years afterwards. The trial revealed she had dozens of calls of men to call. So why call Clayton? Howard. Because she preferred me. She enjoyed me, and she chose me. Despite all this, my experiences were overlooked, and I felt silenced by the very system that is meant to protect victims. The male victims of this enterprise were denied justice. Those victims were not Cassandra. No, the true victims of this enterprise were denied justice. Excuse me. Those victims were not Cassandra and Jane Doe. They were the dozens of men these three, Mr. Combs, Miss Ventura, and Jane Doe, co-conspirators, manipulated for years, seeking the gratification of their own perverse desires. Mr. Combs is not innocent and should be punished, but not based on fabricated narratives that hide the truth of the matter to which he is to be imprisoned. That is not justice. I firmly believe in justice, due process, and despite being denied it, often by law enforcement, I strongly believe that justice should be served in every case. That said, many people don't agree with what Clayton had to say. They pointed out that he had received money from Diddy and was likely on his side to begin with. One person commented, "How is he a victim and he chose to be flown out and accept money, man? Go to bed." Another added, "Basically, he's saying Cassie did to him what Diddy did to her. But he can't see Cassie as a victim while calling himself one. You were a willing participant too, sir. And while there is so much speculation on what Diddy is doing inside court, there are gears moving for his return outside the prison walls already. Reports suggest that once he's released, currently expected around 2028, there could be plans for a major comeback. Not a quiet return, but something global. The idea of a redemption tour is already being discussed with names like Usher mentioned as possible collaborators. This has led to a lot of outrage online with people asking Usher how he could possibly tour with someone who allegedly mistreated him. Why you say that about Usher? Oh, okay. So I'm mad that people aren't more mad at Usher. For what? Because somewhere along the way, he went from a victim to a procurer to a head turner. Like, let's just be honest about Usher. Is he a victim, or is he a cooperating agent? I think we saw the moment he turned into, let's be honest, it's when Diddy put his arm around him and said, "We all know that Chili was a PR relationship. We know that, right? That Chili wasn't real." Him and Chili? Oh yeah, you said chill. That wouldn't. Who believes that was real? I don't hands? No hands. Okay, all right. Now, it all looked cute. Older hot woman, younger guy, and both very good-looking people. Yes. So did he end up with that after that? Let's be clear, he was still a young man. And he was Usher. So if there was vanity involved, how you go from Chili to that? And don't say it's true love. She was, I tell you what I do know. I tell you. How I know how he goes from Chili to that thief. You know, she a thief. You want to know how his wife was her name, Tama? You want to know how she was known in the styling game? Is a that stole everything? That's how she was able to do more video shoots, as she had clothes because she was robbing. This was a retail queen turned stylist. That's who that is. Boosted her way, and she was down with the freak wild. Now, while Usher has acknowledged Diddy's influence on his early career, there are signs he's being careful about any future involvement. The situation is still too sensitive, and any public move would come with strong reactions on both sides. And that really sums up where things stand right now. Some people are still loyal to him, maybe because Diddy still owns a lot of incriminating material on them. Meek Mill is someone who falls into that category, and Big Homie Cece believes he is likely to remain loyal to Diddy. I feel like Meek is an honorable dude. He just don't be up to speed a lot of times. Like, is that audio real? Yeah. What you getting? I don't know that audio. I can't confirm that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause my thing is this. Like, the feds announced that they have a video of Diddy on camera, a male worker. You see what I'm saying? So like, if they making these type of announce, bro, if they had anything on Meek Mill, bro, like that's everywhere, 'cause he just got out of jail and then got off of probation, got a judge fired and all type of things. Like, so it's people who want to see him look bad. What Big Homie Cece was really saying is much simpler. After being around celebrities for a while, he realized the lifestyle behind the scenes is very different from what people imagine. The parties weren't just random fun. They were highly controlled environments where everything was already set up. That's why some people miss them. It wasn't just the vibe. It was the ease. No effort, no rejection, everything already arranged. Then you see, give me thoughts when you see like Bo say that he is upset or he feels a way that there's no more Diddy parties. Like he's almost like he's feeling for the Diddy parties. Like, man, it ain't going down like it was. So let me ask y'all a question right now. Okay? If Bo came into this room without anybody knowing anything he did, and a group of females came into this room, who go get the females first? Y'all or him? If they don't know, he said they don't know who Bo is. Who he is? He's just Shad Moss from up the road. Oh yeah. No, we getting that. Get the females first. Yeah, 'cause Bo did walk in this room, but he was Bo. But no, Bow Wow is he have to like bat his eyes or something. We don't bow ass. Yeah. No. No shade to Shaw. No shade to Shad. There's no shade. No shade to Shad. But, right. So, if you can be a person who can show up you can show up to a place and everybody here is paid to come in here and do what they do, of course you're going to miss that. Yeah, man. You going to a party and everybody? No, man. You can pull anybody you want, male or female, to the bathroom and get out. Yeah, you going to miss that. Yeah. Goddamn. All right. Well, it's a drought then. It's a drought. That drought made people crash out. It's a what? What? Can you give me one celebrity you were surprised to see at a party in a way that you were surprised to see him? Male or female? Like, you might have had an idea about him, then you see him like there ain't no way that this person's doing this with that, or doing this like that, or whatever. Whatever. No. Okay? Yeah. You said go damn. No. 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 Like, after my first year of being working with celebrities, I figured out what it was. I said, oh, so they all like this. Alcohol, huh? Does it always start with alcohol whenever? No. A lot of them don't even drink. Oh, it's just them. Bung. So, you got different levels of, you got horny men and then you got real horny men. He also made it clear that after a while, nothing really surprised him anymore. He saw enough to understand how that world works, and it just wasn't something he wanted to stay around. That's why he'd sometimes remove himself from situations instead of being fully involved. With that said, though, it does seem like Diddy now has a lot more goodwill than he did when the charges against him were announced. Do you think there is now a media campaign to soften his image? Could he get out of prison even earlier than expected? Let us know in the comments below.